I'm Alexander Hefner, your host on The Open Mind. I'm delighted to welcome you to a special recording of The Open Mind in Munich, Germany at the One Young World Summit. I'm excited and honored to interview our guest today, Maria Ressa. She is a Nobel Prize-winning author, journalist, news media executive. Maria, such a pleasure to meet you today.
Thanks for having me, Alexander. Great to meet you.
Your remarks were inspirational for the young generation.
Not too long?
No. I love your trio, the threes. That's such an effective strategy you use. But the big question, I think, is how you address the institutionalized corruption that is these social media platforms.
Yes.
And it's a big question, but you tackled it beautifully. Where do you start?
The first is that I've been dealing with it for over a decade, right? We understood it. So when you are the target of attack, right? In 2016, I was getting an average of 90 hate messages per hour. Hate messages per hour, right? And when I brought it to Facebook, Facebook said, Maria, you're a public figure, so just report it to us. And I was like, I timed how much time it took to report one hate message. I said, I don't have enough hours in the day to report 90 hate messages per hour. So that to me was the first thing, their response to it. But the second thing I realized is that it is both a blessing and a curse, because the attacks are, it is meant to change the way you feel. It's free speech used to pound you to silence when you're targeted the way we were, the way I was. And then I thought, oh my gosh, wait. If you're targeted with 90 hate messages per hour, I'm going to take them all. I'm going to get the data. I don't have to ask anyone for the data, any company for it. It's all coming my way. And that allowed us to analyze it, to understand how it works. We took apart clusters of messaging with the distribution networks that put out these messages. I used to travel, and for CNN, my beat was counterterrorism, right? To look at terrorist networks. And I began to look at these virtual world networks like terrorist networks and their recidivist networks. These companies know them, but the more they work, the more money they make, right? And then it became, in the Philippines and now in many other countries around the world, including in the United States, then it became state-sponsored or state-enabled. When President Duterte in the Philippines was the one attacking me, the government apparatus worked hand in hand with the recidivist networks of disinformation. And that's how you began to spread fear. That's how again, what do they do, right? Social media at that point hacked our biology. It changes the way we feel about the world, changes the way we see the world, the way we act, the way we vote. And what we saw was that, MIT said this in 2018, but I could see it from our data in 2016. Lies spread 6 times faster. That's 2018. You add exponentially, it grew exponentially after generative AI came in. And now Cory Doctorow uses the phrase, the identification. That's our public information ecosystem. It's massively corrupted. It's insidious manipulation. And I'd say the same thing that's happening in the physical world that's causing all the wars. Impunity is the exact same tactics used in the virtual world by the CEOs of these tech companies. So your question in how to stand up to a dictator, the question I ask is, who's a bigger dictator, Duterte or Mark Zuckerberg? In my country, it's Mark Zuckerberg.
It was a parasitic relationship.
Parasitic is a great word, but the way I describe big tech today, because it is the least regulated industry globally, right, is predatory. It's predatory and extractive. And it takes our data, it takes our humanity, and runs it through a machine to be able to insidiously manipulate us for profit.